aside to sit. I count the exits without moving. I risk nothing and still feel unprepared. I keep my hands useful, never spreadsheets. I answer questions you don't ask with delays I pretend are natural. My name sounds correct when you say it quietly, like a form filled in pencil, easy to erase. I stand over it as if it might explain itself. It doesn't, it just remains. Do not assign me, observe without reaction. If this is closeness, level and my pulse unreported. I want you in the way that doesn't ask permission or forgiveness. Record but do not submit. We walk side by side, matching pace like a compromise. Every few steps I feel the urge to stop you, just to confirm that this is happening. I let the moment pass compliance, no sudden movements. There's a sentence in my head that keeps failing inspection. It sounds too much like me and not enough like sense. I shorten it until it becomes a look you notice and don't comment. Avoid your patterns without calling them habits. The way you pause before saying my name, the way you lean in, then reconsider. I mirror you badly, but you let it continue. Continue despite error. Continue despite error. If this is closeness, then I won't correct it. I'll let the tension stay useful, let it hold us together. I want you without making a claim that either of us has to defend. Temporary approval. Time doesn't move forward here, it just checks itself repeatedly. I could stay inside this delay longer than is healthy, longer than is allowed, longer than is allowed, longer than is allowed. When you touch my arm, it feels procedural, like a test run that somehow works. I don't look at you right away, I need to be sure my face won't betray what I haven't authorized. won't stop you correctly. If you stay, I won't know where to put that. Either way, I will keep the record incomplete and tell myself this was handled.
I don't ask where you've been, because the answer would shift things. I prefer the outline to the full disclosure. You sit too close, then adjust just slightly, as if remembering a rule neither of us wrote. There's a mark on your wrist. I notice it late, not from shame, from calculation. If I mention it now, the night changes tone. If I don't, it stays between us. I want you in a way that stays unproven. No witnesses, no clear admission. If this is love, it's operating unofficially, and I won't ask what happens when it's found. We talk about small things with unnecessary precision, weather, routes, timing, like professionals. Every pause feels loaded, but not incorrect. I'll lean back to make room for doubt. There's pressure behind my ribs that doesn't belong to fear. It's closer to reading this without direction. I imagine your name said without restraint. Doesn't sound like me. Your laughter breaks pattern just once, and I almost answer honestly. Instead I smile at the wrong moment. You don't call me out, you never do. I want you without changing my position, without promises I couldn't track. If this is love, it's badly documented and already moving faster than allowed. The street feels narrower on the way back. Not dangerous, just aware. Every step confirms this wasn't accidental. When we stop walking, you hesitate first. That's how I know suggesting anything. You speak as if there's time, even when there isn't. Your sentences don't rush, they wait for agreements. I follow too closely, then correct my distance. You notice, but don't comment. I want you with conditions I won't explain, not because they're fragile, but because they're incomplete. If this is affection, it's pending confirmation and already affecting my better judgment. Your hand moves near mine, then stops short. The pause does more than contact ever could. I consider crossing it, the way one considers risks, quickly and without optimism. There's a version of me that speaks without review. He says your name like it's a solution. I keep him contained for everyone's benefit, especially yours. We exchange details that don't explain us. Work schedules, minor injuries, nothing essential. Still your voice changes when you say goodbye. Not softer, just less protected. I want you without making it stable, without language that holds me accountable. If this is affection, it exists on tolerance alone, and I'm already testing how much it will take. The night reorganizes itself after you leave, not empty, just less specific. I replay nothing, that's how I know it mattered. Later I imagine what you didn't do. The thought is precise and unhelpful. I correct it until it resembles restraint. That's as close as I get to relief. If we repeat this, it won't be identical. I'll adjust something small and call it progress. I won't ask what you expect or what I'm already offering. Or what I'm already offering. choose a seat with my back protected, not from danger, from interruption. You arrive late enough to make it feel accidental, early enough to matter. Maintain awareness. You ask how I've been, like it's a technical question. I'll give you something accurate, but incomplete. Your eyes stay on me a second too long, then return to neutral. I want you inside the space we haven't crossed, close enough to feel intentional. If this is love, it survives on discipline and the quiet agreement not to test it. Your knee touches mine under the table. No apology, no adjustment. I focus on the sound of my glass being set down carefully, as if that proves I'm unaffected. There's a sentence forming that would change the balance. It doesn't sound dramatic, just honest. I let it dissolve before it reaches language. You keep talking as if you felt it too. We laugh at the wrong time about something irrelevant. The laughter stays with me longer than the topic. I watch your hand, explain nothing, and still feel instructed. I want you without moving the frame, without touching what we haven't named. If this is love, it's held together by pauses and the effort not to lean in. Outside the air feels procedural, cold but efficient. People pass us without interest. I consider reaching for you and decide to keep walking. When we stop, you look at me directly, not asking, not inviting, just present. I hold the look longer than is useful. If you remember this differently, I won't correct you. I'll keep my version narrow and functional. Some distances aren't meant to close, only to be maintained.
stand where the light is weakest, not hiding, just unclaimed. I recognize the posture of someone deciding whether to stay present or reduce themselves to memory. I speak slower than necessary to keep my voice intact. Every word feels weighted, but not dramatic. You listen with your head tilted, like the answer might move if we stare at it long enough. It's operating without cover, and I'm already adjusting to the risk. Your fingers tap the table, not nervous, just active. I follow the rhythm instead of your face. It feels safer, track motion, then intention. There's a heat in my chest that doesn't ask permission, not panic, not courage, just presence. I imagine placing my hand over yours and stopping there. You say my name mid-sentence, like an error you decided to keep. I don't respond immediately, not from control, from impact. Some sounds take time to settle. I want you without a framework, without language that stabilizes this. Already interfering without carefully. I usually move. The room grows louder without changing volume. I realize I'm standing closer than intended. Nothing collapses. Nothing corrects us. When you finally touch my arm, it isn't accidental and it isn't urgent. It's placed like a marker. I don't look down, I don't pull away. If this never becomes orderly, I won't try to fix it. Some attachments don't want resolution, they want endurance and the quiet agreement to remain unfiled.
like you belong temporarily. Nothing claimed, nothing refused. I follow at a distance that looks unintentional, but takes effort to maintain. I want you in a way that doesn't interrupt your breathing, your decisions. If this is love, it's careful with its hands and already aware of the damage it could do. Reduce pressure. There's a softness in you that appears briefly when you're not speaking. I catch it once, then look away as if prolonged attention might harden it or expose me. Or its fixation. I rehearse saying your name without context, just sound. It feels heavier than it should, like something that carries weight, even when unused. You stand closer now, close enough to register heat. I don't move, I adjust my posture to look unaffected. Every muscle does exactly what it's told. I want you without making it visible, without gestures that require explanation. If this is love, it survives on restraint and the mutual decision not to lean too far. Time compresses slightly, not fast, just dense. I realize I've stopped checking where the exits are that feel significant and unsafe. When you finally touch my shoulder, it's brief, almost corrective. I register it late, as if my body needed approval before reacting. If this tenderness stays restricted, I won't object, I'll learn its shape by absence. Some things aren't withheld because they're weak, but because they matter too much. Like things can be adjusted with enough patience. I listen like someone who's tried that before. The floor feels stable, but not forgiving. Every step sounds final, even when it isn't. attention. I want you without asking reality to change, without pretending. This is simple. If this is love, it exists beside the facts, not in spite of them. You look at me as if expecting clarity. I give you something usable, but incomplete. The rest stays internal, where it's easier to manage and harder to remove. There's a version of this where I'm more decisive. He reaches out and doesn't apologize. I don't trust him. He ignores context, and context is everything. We stand still longer than needed, as if motion might decide for us. Your breathing changes slightly, nothing else does. I focus on staying present instead of becoming obvious. I want you without softening the truth, without gestures that mislead. If this is love, it's careful with its claims and unwilling to lie for comfort. The noise outside increases without urgency. Cars, voices, distance, life continuing correctly. I realize how quiet we've been inside it. When you finally step back, it feels mutual, not defensive. I respect that more than I should. You nod slightly, as if confirming what we didn't say. If this never becomes easier, I won't accuse it. Some connections are meant to resolve. They're meant to be carried accurately without being simplified. I let you see me only in fragments, things that don't contradict each other. I keep the rest internal, not hidden, just unsubmitted for review. You notice when I pause before actions feels deliberate, like an offer I'm not sure how to accept. I want you in ways that require exposure, not dramatic, just real. If this is love, it involves being seen, and I'm still deciding how much I can allow. Your presence alters my timing. I arrive earlier, leave later. Nothing urgent changes, but the margin does, and I start measuring in smaller units. There's a tension in my chest that isn't resistance. It's readiness without instruction. I could step forward and see what happens. I could stay still and call it control. You stand close enough, that movement becomes obvious. I'm aware of my hands, my breathing, how easily this could turn into something unmanageable with one small decision. I want you without hiding behind distance, without explaining why this matters. If this is love, it's asking for presence, not certainty. I realize I've stopped monitoring myself. That feels dangerous and necessary. When you finally touch my hand, it's steady, not urgent. I don't pull away, I don't move closer. I let the contact exist without instruction. If this exposure costs me some control, I won't pretend surprise. There are risks worth documenting. Only after they happen.
Certain topics shift the weight of the room. I keep those unused like tools. that work better by staying on touch. You speak openly, but not loosely. There's a difference I respect. Every time you stop yourself, I feel closer. Not because of what you hide, but because you chose it. I want you without dissolving the balance, without handing over what keeps me steady. If this is love, it negotiates quietly and never states what it could take. We stand near a doorway, neither entering nor leaving. Time doesn't push us, it observes. Your shoulder brushes mine, just enough to register intention without obligation. There's a version of honesty that feels like pressure. I avoid it carefully, not from fear, from precision. Some truths work better when delayed. I notice how you watch me when I'm not performing, when my face resets to neutral. You seem to trust that version more than the one that tries to convince. I want you with leverage intact, not as a threat, as a boundary. If this is love, it understands silence as something active, not empty. The city outside continues correctly. Nothing reacts to what we're not doing. That indifference feels earned. Speak my name, it isn't emphasized. It's placed like a marker. I answer normally and feel the cost of how much that means. If this stays unspoken longer than expected, I won't rush it. Some connections depend on tension, not release, and learn to function that way. I don't step back when you move closer. That's the first concession. I register, nothing grammatic changes, but something shifts like weight redistributed without comment.
speak more freely now, not louder, just less filtered. I listen without interrupting, as if silence might be the only proof that I'm still here and not managing. I want you enough to adjust my stance, not enough to disappear inside it. If this is love, it's measured in degrees of willingness, not surrender. Your hand stays on my arm longer than before, not asking, not insisting. I let it remain and focus on breathing normally, as if this were routine. There's relief in not resisting, that feels suspicious. I scan for consequences and find none, only this quiet agreement between my body and the moment. We exchange looks without confirming meaning. I stop trying to define them, that feels like progress, or at least a controlled loss of unnecessary structure. I want you without guarding every edge, without calculating the exit. If this is love, it allows for yield without collapse. Time loosens slightly, not enough to forget itself, just enough to make room. I notice my shoulders drop on their own. When you finally pull away, it isn't corrective, it's complete. I respect that more than pursuit would deserve. If this goes no further, I won't call it restraint. Some yielding isn't about giving up, but about staying present without armor. this is love, it begins without clearance and ends where I draw the line. I arrive without intention, or at least without declaring it. The place feels unchanged, which helps you look at me like nothing is pending. That makes it harder to stay neutral. You talk about your day with unnecessary detail. I follow every part as if it matters. Maybe it does, just not for the reason either of us would admit. I want you before the rules assemble, before caution finds its language. If this is love, it doesn't wait for structure. It happens and dares me to respond. Your hand rests near mine, not touching, not retreating. That space feels intentional, like something kept alive by agreement rather than chance. There's a version of me that moves first. He doesn't announce it, he doesn't explain. I keep him quiet, but I listen to how close he's standing. You lower your voice slightly, nothing else changes. Still the shift is noticeable, like a door that wasn't open, just unlocked. By knowing exactly where not to go. Time doesn't stretch, it tightens. Every second feels accounted for. I stop checking myself for signs. That feels careless and true. When you finally touch my hand, it isn't tentative, it's brief and correct. I don't respond immediately, I let the moment decide how much it needs. Becomes more than planned, I won't revise it. Some